Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest in our Urban Living webinar series. Before we get started, if you aren't one of our speakers, if you could just keep your camera off and keep yourself muted, that makes for a much smoother session. Thanks for that. Today, we are going to be discussing hotel hybrids and hostels, hospitality hybrids. It's an ever-expanding term, but it's a really interesting and vital element of the real estate and hospitality sector. The session is one in the lead up to an event that we're launching in London next year called the Urban Living Festival, which will take place in July. And in the run up to that, we are also doing some events in November, which are going to be small face-to-face events with an option to join digitally, debating some of the subjects that will be featured at the main event next summer. We're doing these because the Urban Living Festival was originally due to be taking place in November. Obviously, events have overtaken us and we aren't able to do that. So we're doing some small events that are COVID compliant and some online events just to whet people's appetites for the main event next year. And the big event will be taking place at Tobacco Dock in July. We'll be covering all different types of hospitality and real estate asset classes. It's themed around 3 stages: live, stay and work. And we'll be looking at how those different elements are blurring and overlapping, which is also something I think we'll be discussing on this session today. Just a little bit of housekeeping. The session will last an hour. We'll have 45 minutes of panel discussion, and then we'll go to a Q&A at the end. And you can submit your questions using the chat function on Zoom, and we'll try to get around to answering as many of those between us as we can towards the end of the session. There'll be a recording of the webinar going out to everybody who has registered in a couple of days' time. My name is George Sell. I'm Editor-in-Chief at International Hospitality Media, and we are an online B2B publisher and an events organizer for the hospitality sector. Before we get into the discussion, I just wanted to show a few slides that give the conversation today a bit of context. So the first one is from Rosie Willen, who's co-founder of Stay the Night. And I like this definition of hybrids because it's quite broad, it's quite inclusive. She says hybrids are dynamic, multifunctional spaces where people can stay, work, eat, drink, and socialize all under one roof. They might offer a mix of short stay and long stay accommodation, as well as co-living spaces, co-working spaces, restaurants, bars, and more. And then Dirk Bakker from Colliers says hotels creating a place not only to sleep and eat, but also to rent out space to meet, collaborate, socialize and work is a key way for underperforming areas within the building to be optimized. Hotel spaces can be used twice, while traditional workspaces only once. This concept could appeal to institutional investors and could become a permanent new form of hospitality in the future. Another of Collier's guys, Harold Quenders, says that this hybrid function can also have sustainability benefits through the more efficient use of space. One of the strengths of these models is their flexibility in terms of building type and the accommodation they can offer. Generators Barcelona property, for example, has everything from very nice boutique hotel style suites to 8-bed dorms with quite a big price range and a very broad customer type too. The Student Hotel, an operator that most of you will be aware of, they've got quite a big pipeline coming up, and their latest property in Vienna has a mix of student rooms, hotel rooms and co-living studios. Former Mininger chairman Navneet Bali used to describe the company as the most profitable hotel group in the world, and that's because they could not only maximize revenue per square foot rather than per room, but they could convert almost any building, even with awkward footprints, to incorporate dorms, single rooms, double rooms, and so on. Navneet's now working on a new hybrid brand called Live In, which will be interesting to follow. And it's not just the smaller and the independent brands who are getting involved. Obviously, we've got our friend Francois from Joe & Joe, which is an Accor brand here today. And Radisson have recently launched what they're actually calling hybrid rooms. So hotel rooms deliberately reconfigured to allow people to stay and work in them. Okay, so today's session is kindly sponsored by HARMONICS, and I'm just going to hand over quickly to Giles now to tell you a bit about the company before we meet today's panelists. Over to you, Giles.
Thanks, George. That's kind. It's great to be here today. I'm Giles Horrich-Smith from HARMONICS. We provide software for running innovative living solutions, essentially hybrid model, residential and accommodation. Hence why we're so enthusiastic to be supporting today. At HARMONICS, we're working with owners and operators across the globe, running different models of operating from short to medium to long stay accommodation with actively managed communal space, much like the hybrid model described. These can be lounges, bookable spaces, through to co-working or dedicated offices, bars, restaurants, or general service. And our platform is specifically designed to enable those types of operators to maximize profit and engage with residents across the different modes of operation in the building. We cover the full business journey from distribution to bookings, day-to-day, guest experience to maintenance, housekeeping and finance. And we help businesses to attract and close new business, to create and manage a high-performing team in these companies, to deliver excellent customer service whilst nurturing the resident relationship and making the financial piece seamless. We've done this with about 7,000 properties globally so far, and we've built up good levels of experience in supporting this way of operating. We believe that combining the different modes.
Oh, Giles, I think we've lost you briefly there. I think we've lost our connection with Giles there, but you can see his contact details in the chat on your right there, along with the Res web address. So if you'd like to hear more about HARMONICS, please get in touch with Giles. So we have with us today a truly international panel of great speakers, and I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves one by one, and you'll be able to see their LinkedIn profiles in the chat as we go along. Gents, I'm going to ask you to talk about yourselves, tell me where you are in the world, and also give us a very quick overview of what the term hybrid hospitality means to you. I'm going to introduce you as I can see you from left to right on my screen. So Niko, if you would like to go first, please.
Sure thing. First of all, thanks for having me on, George. My name is Niko. We operate Bob W. I'm the co-founder and CEO. We are a tech company operating in hospitality. Essentially, we're a smarter, tech-driven alternative to hotels and short stay apartments, where we take the best of the hotel experience and the magic of the short stay, or what consumers would call Airbnb experience, put it into this affordable luxury brand called Bob W. And under the hood, we run the whole thing on tech so that we don't screw things up with human error. Where we are we've just recently raised a €4 million investment round as well. We are backed by NREP with top VCs in Europe, including Byfounders VC, as well as other hospitality and tech investors. Today we operate in Finland and Estonia, and we are expanding to the UK just over a year from now, into London, as well as 2 new markets that we're expanding to shortly. In terms of, to answer George's question of what is hybrid hospitality, or I guess alternative accommodation being the other word for it, I think it's everything, you know, hotels, historically, hotels from a hospitality standpoint has been a rigid format that has been followed. And I think we have, and the consumer has woken up to the opportunities of their different use cases, their different lengths of stays, their different modes of travel, modes of living. And the hybrid models represent the proliferation of that, of actually offering the customers the solutions that they're looking for, whether that's co-living, whether that's short stay, home-like apartments, or whether that's another model outside of it. So really, it's about opening up our imagination to meeting and exceeding the demands of the consumer.
Thanks, Niko.
Cheers.
Paul, could you go next, please?
Hi, thanks for having me. Paul Bridger, I'm calling in from Dubai. I'm just opposite the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. So I head ROVE Hotels. ROVE is a homegrown Dubai hospitality brand, developed for the need to have really high quality, affordable hotels in Dubai and across this region. We're an award-winning lifestyle hotel brand. Last week, we won the Middle East Best Budget Hotel Brand, according to Business Traveler readers. We offer really well-designed hotels in great locations with touches of local culture and the community, connected through art and design. We call our guests rovers, and they're people that like to kind of explore the city, explore without borders. We currently have 6 hotels open in Dubai and about 4,000 rooms either open or under development across the Middle East. We'll be taking our model to the beach in just a few weeks' time, where we'll have a kind of hybrid concept where you'll be able to eat, stay, work, play on the beach, which I think is pretty exciting. And only yesterday we announced the only hotel we'll be managing at the Expo 2020 Dubai. So we'll have the only hotel, which we're very excited about. For me, hybrid hospitality is the ability to eat, sleep, work, play seamlessly without maybe division in kind of real estate or team, or without you feeling like you're entering a different experience. So thank you again for having me, and I look forward to connecting.
Thanks, Paul. Francois, over to you.
So hi everybody, Francois. I'm based in Paris, so welcome to Paris. I have the chance to lead a great company called Joe & Joe. I'm quite sure that many of you don't know yet that brand. We are part of Accor group, so I'm part of the lifestyle division. So we just created that company and that brand more than 3 years ago. We just opened a first one in south of France, a second and a third one in Paris. The pipeline is in a worldwide basis, as the next one will be in Rio, in Brazil, or Rome, or the main capitals in the world. We are exactly what you all mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. We are really an hybrid company or an hybrid brand. And why do we do that? Maybe I will be the first to say that, but we are not selling rooms, we are selling beds. And for an accommodation company such as Accor, with more than 5,000 hotels over the world, it's the first time ever that we sell beds. And it's exactly an hybrid. And why that? Because we are not talking about hotel or hostel, because we are both. We are first a living place, or a place where people can, as you all mentioned, sleep, chill, have a party, have a lunch, or whatever. And why do we just create that brand? Because the customer has changed. And the same, myself or yourself, in the same day, you can have a lunch in a 3-star restaurant in Paris, and for the weekend, you can also be in a dormitory with your friends and just share a bedroom. So it's quite unusual. It was not unusual, and now it's the brand I'm just leading. So great. So happy to be with you and talk about that great and just amazing new business model.
Thank you, Francois. Hans, over to you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here with us this afternoon. I'm Hans, I'm co-founder from Zoku. Zoku is, well, the original definition in 2015 was already a hybrid between a home and an office, topped with hotel services and the social buzz of a thriving neighborhood. Zoko Amsterdam opened in 2016, has been a big success from day one, and we expect openings within 6 months in both Vienna and in Copenhagen. Zoko has basically two different areas. The public areas are basically designed differently than a normal hotel. It's fully designed around facilitating effortless connections between people. Our mission is also bringing people together instead of putting heads in beds. And the second thing, the private areas are is the Zoku Loft, which is basically our room product, where you can find everything to live comfortably and work efficiently on the same size of a normal hotel room. And if you compare the Zoku Loft with normal hotel rooms, where the bed is most of the time the most fundamental piece of furniture, at Zoku, the kitchen table is paramount and the bed is basically hidden, like you also can see at the back. Forbes selected us as one of the 25 coolest hotels in the world, so we're very proud of that. And we absolutely believe in the hybrid model. And apart from what I just heard, the definitions, how you could perceive a hybrid, you could perceive a hybrid from different functions that you can do in the same place. But especially we see a hybrid as a form that you can stack different business models on the same square meter. So not only in the social spaces, but also, for example, in the rooms, because currently our Zoku Loft is used as a hotel room, as a service department, as a meeting room, as a workspace, and even we organize micro events in Zoku also during Corona in order to create some additional revenue. And I think it really drills down to intensification of the space, which is, I think, a different word than densification that, for example, companies like WeWork have been using. The interesting part of the hybrid model is that we have a 24/7 revenue opportunity, and that's a big distinction if you would compare us with other, for example, workspaces like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans. And last but not least, Filippo, good to see you.
Hi, George. Hi, everyone. How are you? Nice to see you all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Filippo Cavandoli. I'm the CEO and founder of Nomad Aparthotels. We are an Aparthotel company with locations in Milan and Rome. After opening Nomad in 2015, we joined Marriott and became an official franchisee for Italy for Marriott. And so we opened with them a luxury collection here in Trieste. So luxury collection is the highest luxury brand of Marriott. And with them we are opening other hotels in Italy and abroad. So as a company with Nomad, with our brand, but we also became a white label company, partnering up with Marriott, which is a leading hotel brand in the world. We did this so we could reach a vast majority of clients and a diverse clients all over the world. So from a 5-star that we have here in Trieste, from where I'm calling now, to a hybrid hotel, like I like to call it, like the Nomad we have in Milan. So I agree with my colleagues here who with the definitions of hybrid hotels. But I do believe that they will be a success, and they are a success. Like, I love Zoku, and I love what they did in Amsterdam. But I don't believe that you can call them the new type of hotels, because people are diverse or different, and they like different things. So people love to go to a Zoku in Amsterdam and have that kind of vibe, which is amazing, or like Mario did with Moxie. But people also love luxury hotels and normal classic hotels. So I believe the hybrid hotel is a big chunk of the future. But again, I believe also in diversity. So that's why, as a company, we decided to partner with Marriott and open these diverse hotels. Thanks, George.
Okay, thanks, Filippo. So while we're on the subject of definitions, when I first heard the term hybrid hotels, it was applied to brands such as Meininger, Generator, so a kind of hybrid of a hotel and a hostel, if you like. I think the term has sort of broadened a fair bit since then to include lots of other definitions. But there certainly has been a real surge in interest and a proliferation of what you might term hybrid brands. So maybe we could kick off with you, Hans. What do you think is the reason behind the proliferation, both in hybrid brands and the interest in them from operators, from investors, and from guests too?
Well, I think first of all, which was said before, the consumers actually have been changing. We focus basically on people who need to live and work in a city between 5 nights and 3 months. That's basically our sweet spot. And those people, I mean, you can call them leisureites. They basically mix business and leisure all at the same space. However, what often happened in a lot of hotels that there were no fantastic workspaces. So for example, in your hotel room, it's not an ideal place to work. That you would most of the time not be able to invite somebody into your space for a meeting or something. And at the same time, often even the social spaces are not ideal for working. So what we did is we started to talk with 150 people from the target audience and really learned, okay, what kind of functionalities, but also what kind of experiences do you need? And then we already found out pretty soon that apart from that people want to work efficiently, at the same time, they also want to be able to meet other people if they are in a city where they don't speak the language, where they don't know a lot of people. So this kind of combination of social interaction, working efficiently, everything basically together brought us to this white sheet of paper, and where we actually said, I agree with Filippo. I mean, there are a lot of different niches in the world, but we decided, okay, we prefer to be big in a small market than to be small in a big market. So we did it with this entire target audience, and we developed together with 290 people from the target audience this entire concept, where basically this hybrid was a kind of a question from what they actually wanted to experience when they are living and working internationally. So it's fully consumer driven.
Thanks, Hans. We can't gloss over what's happening in the world, and the COVID pandemic has really had terrible effects across the hospitality industry. But it does seem to me that certain models have managed to weather the storm better than others, extended stay being one, and I think hybrids too. So Niko, maybe if I can start with you, how has your business fared during the pandemic, and why do you think that hybrid models maybe have fared better than some other traditional hospitality models?
So, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, first of all, our hearts go out to everybody who's been suffering during this pandemic, whether it's health-wise or business or living-wise. For us, it's been a blessing, and I think it's been an acceleration of trends. So we've had about 3x, in our markets in Finland and Estonia, the industry has been averaging about 30% occupancy. We've been 3x that throughout this time. And I think for us, being the sort of the hybrid of the hotel and the short stay experience, what we've managed to do is, because of that, Hans mentioned that they're from 5 to 90 nights, and I guess we're 1 to 90 nights. So the sort of same type of length, but for us, so from the acceleration in our case, acceleration of trends of one is the obvious of social distancing and people not wanting to use these shared spaces at this given time. And the other aspect being around this, the short stay rental market. So the sort of Airbnbs of the world, which is 4.4 million in Europe. However, only 0.5% of them are branded. So what you have is throughout this pandemics, it just showed sort of flaws in this format of both not wanting to have the shared spaces for now. And that's something as us, we don't have shared spaces, but instead we've got, digital entries into the apartments, as well as we interactively bring the neighborhood to life for yourself, but we do not have our own front desk, etc. So one is we've been from a social distancing standpoint, we've been the better choice. But then where the trust falls out from the consumer is this alternative accommodation, particularly in the apartments level, there is no big brands that you can trust. And we've been able to bring that sort of professional front on it and really show and give confidence to the consumer that we are a safe and better option from that. So from us, this standpoint of one, having flexibility in that business model of having the kitchens and having everything you need to stay from 1 to 90 nights, plus these two trends that have come out of the pandemic and now during those pandemic are really have been propelling us, that we recognize that we can cater to a lot broader use case. So, you know, not just the, you know, the 1 or 2 nighters from coming in from the region, but also looking at, you know, expats returning, looking at essential workers, looking at a whole array of different needs that are not where the classic rigid hotel model falls short in this case. And I think that's in many ways, like we talked about, and some of the other colleagues here mentioned, the flexibility of the space and flexibility of the models. And I think that's really playing to our advantage here as well.
Thanks, Niko. The idea of the shared space is an interesting one, because for a lot of hybrid brands, that's part of the attraction. So, I mean, Francois, the Joe and Joe experience is the shared spaces are at the heart of that. So how have you found people's reactions and attitudes to that over the last few months?
I would say first that maybe our customers are so resilient because maybe they are young. Because when you talk about hostel, you automatically think about millennials or young people. I won't say that they don't care about pandemic or about whatever. They are like we are, but they say, okay, tomorrow will be better. So when we are talking on the hostel part, that kind of clients are very strong facing that pandemic. In the other part of our business, like a regular hotel means private room and private bathroom, like an hotel. It's right that people know are less traveling around the world. They are less having some business travel like that. So it's a lack of customer. But in the same time, if I see with some investors' eyes, as we just open people, we open the hotel to the neighbor who say thanks to the bar and thanks to the restaurant. Now we are again facing a great business, or not a great business, but a strong performance still because of the neighborhood. And when we say hybrid again, okay, we lose the long haul and people traveling from all over the world, but thanks to the 35–50%, depending on properties, business done with the local. I mean, if you remember when you were younger and you were traveling in hostel, it was written just in the building, dedicated to the customer. No, it's the opposite way. And hybrid means open to everybody. So today, it's real that the business is much done by neighborhood and by people from Paris when you are in Paris, or Amsterdam when you are at Amsterdam. Thanks, and so it's again we are and our customer are much more resilient because they are just facing the reality of, okay, I'm just have a lunch just for 1 or 2 hours. Okay, I do, and I'm at Joe and I leave. I need a room for 1, 2, or 3 days. Okay, I have a choice. And thanks to the fact that we have all in the same roof, okay, we lose some business and we gain some other business with some other customers. So maybe it's the main thing that hybrid means. It's as we have different customers under the same room or under the same roof, maybe we can lose or gain, depends on the periods.
Thanks, Francois. Paul, ROVE is an interesting brand because you have different types of hotels under the brand. You've got service residences coming in one of your developments, and you've also got workspace, but with a third-party operator, I understand it. So when you're looking at a new development, which combination of hybrid elements do you choose to put in there, and how do you make the decision about which elements to include? Because it seems to me you've got quite a lot of different things at your disposal, but they probably wouldn't all work on all your sites.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I agree with what Francois said. I think you know, the hybrid model reflects society, you know, and society is changing, and I think, you know, I hate to say the blend of business and leisure into pleasure, you know, it really is firstly, customers want it, and I think secondly, you know, owners, managers realize now that, you know, having a more diverse offering is much better for business, you know, if you've got different brands or different concepts. And I think, just touching on what you said, I think we're probably closer to the traditional hotel model than a lot of the speakers, though, you know, as you said, I think in our mindset we're not, you know, and we use our public spaces very effectively to engage with our customers, and as you mentioned, you know, so much so that we've seen such an uptake in co-working that we've developed our own co-working concept from ROVE that's become so successful that we've actually kind of spun it off into a sister company, and it's now the biggest co-working concept across the region. So I think, yeah, in short, answering your question, I think that's the reason why, you know, hybrid models are doing so well. And, you know, we try to, in our hotel design, connect with the, you know, the community. And I think a couple of the speakers have mentioned about community and the importance of community. And I'm pretty sure, you know, most hotel or hybrid models now are very much focused on that domestic crowd in one way or another. And I think the models that are being successful at the moment are in a lot of ways connected to that crowd.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Filippo, I guess your partnership with Marriott, the brand that they have got that fits best into this niche would be Moxie. Is that a brand that you're going to get involved with?
Yeah, we're going to open the Moxie in Naples in 2 years, so in 2 years' time. So yeah, that's a brand that is more connected to what we're talking about now. But can I just go back to the COVID, how it hit you know, the markets? So we were hit really badly because the first country that was hit was Italy, and already in our property in Milan, we started suffering in December when China stopped traveling and Asia stopped traveling. So our hotels are still closed, the one in Milan and Rome, because there's no tourism whatsoever. Italy without Americans and Japanese and Asian tourists, it's an empty country. Business travel has stopped completely. So it's a nightmare for anyone across the big cities in Europe. We were lucky because one of our properties at the luxury collection from where I'm calling now is a 5-star luxury brand, and we're on the beach. So we had a record season this year. End of June, July, August, September, October, we were almost full. We almost over 90% occupancy. Now we're going to another lockdown. So France is starting another lockdown, I believe today or tomorrow. It will be an easier lockdown. Now we have a curfew in Italy starting at 6 p.m. the shops close, and after 11 p.m. you can't leave your house. So either for emergency or business. So it's what I believe personally is that whoever, I'm going back to all the meetings we've had and all the summits we've had with you guys, and nobody could have ever expected this, and it was just our market and our sector was the only one that was growing and growing and growing. I believe now these years are years of survival. So who can survive this pandemic? Of course, you know, in a healthy way and financially, will have easier success after this, because I believe we'll go back to normal in 2022, not sooner. So, you know, speaking to other colleagues of this sector, you know, maybe who spoke before, maybe Estonia, Finland were, you know, less hit hard as the rest of Europe was. But any hotel in a big city is really suffering right now, and I'm sure you're seeing this yourself, George. So you know, it's survival, and hopefully we'll get back to normal within a year or so. And I'm sure the sector won't change, the people won't change. You know, what people like before will still continue to be like even in the future. We saw this summer what happened when COVID stopped and people just behaved like nothing happened, and mainly that's the reason why we are in this situation now in the UK, France, Italy, anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, thanks, Filippo. Let's move on now to the investment piece. Hans, Zoku was something of a pioneer in this space. I'd be interested to hear your take on how investor attitudes to what you're doing has changed from when you first floated the idea to where you are now. Are they much more open to new concepts such as yours?
Yeah, definitely. You absolutely see this changing. So especially previously, when I also worked for Citizen M, at that time, these kind of new concepts were perceived as, I would almost call it risky, while I felt they were less risky than the traditional cookie cutter models, because a lot of those hotels obviously were fully commoditized. Brands can be interchanged pretty easy. And you also see this in this current market, that especially the commoditized product, they do much worse than, I think, a little bit those exceptional, unique concepts. Having said that, you currently what you see still with investors, their funds are often allocated to only residential or offices or hotels or whatever. The interesting thing starts now that some of those bigger funds start also to think about this hybrid space, because they actually see the opportunity over there. I mean, you could, there are hybrids are kind of a combination between the hotel and the hostel, for example, what you explained. Well, Zoku is really a combination of the hotel and the office model. And where actually co-working starts to really blend into our operation. And especially this development, also in the pandemic, has showed there is a huge potential, because what we currently see is that a lot of companies are rethinking their office lease strategies. They are thinking, okay, why should I close a lease agreement for 10 years with a lot of guarantees and I need to fit out my office? Why aren't we, for example, continue with work from home policies, but then use, for example, hybrid spaces as the places where actually my people can connect and collaborate? And well, these kind of new models with the distributed workforces, with remote working, that all will tap into this market. And if I see also the bigger real estate consultancies like JLL or CBRE or other consultancies like McKinsey, they all see this kind of development, that where there is a huge opportunity for the hotel space to also go into the office space. Now, what we've seen, for example, I think Francois, Accor did a great campaign in Europe where they basically announced that you could work in 270 hotels in Europe. But at the same time, we also still have a lot of products that are not fully geared to that. I mean, still a lot of hotels, they have a bedroom basically, which is not ideal for working. But I think there's a huge opportunity over there, and definitely convinced that the investors will follow.
Would this change the way that you design the communal areas at a Zoku, Hans, in terms of providing more shared workspace on the ground floor, for example, or do you think that the lofts themselves are enough to cater for that change in the way people work?
So what we currently have is that people want to have choice. And sometimes you want to work, you have a kind of a private meeting, you want to work very focused, and then I think the space where I'm currently in is ideal for that. But at other moments you want to connect in a more informal setting, maybe having a drink or something, and the social spaces offer that. We now have companies actually in Zoku that also have their company address at Zoku. They are fully run from Zoku. And I think that's something that will, these kind of developments will speed up in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, Hans.
George, if I may add just a point that Hans made a really good point here. I think in terms of the investor, the real estate investors, we find that are really asking that same fundamental question is, what's happening with offices, what's the future of it. I mean, Cushman Wakefield just did a study that in Europe, office vacancies is going to go from 5.9% to 12.3% by 2022. So what to do with offices? What's happening with retail? I mean, malls have been a question a long time ago as well. So there's a real big question of where does the future lie? And I think the flexibility of our model is something that really helps. And as an example, we just made our first property deal of an office conversion with a massive global real estate fund. So that's an example they haven't traditionally touched in hospitality, and them making that move now is really them starting to rethink, okay, what the heck is going to bring the returns in the future? So I wanted to add that to Hans's point.
Well, this is one of the benefits of the hybrid model, I think, is that it's so flexible in terms of the kind of buildings you can convert to these. So
exactly.
Can you talk us through briefly, Niko, what is involved in converting an office building to the finished product that you're going to operate? Are you going to have to tinker with the footprint much, or is it mainly cosmetic?
So that obviously depends on the building, but I think for us, for example, so as a business, we don't take shared spaces. So instead, what we've got is, we're basically operating a commercial assets that are a cluster of apartments at scale in commercial properties. And so that means that we've been able to, not only look at purpose-built stuff for us, but like we said, office conversions, converting old hotels to our purposes, obviously us having kitchens and other utility elements that keep you comfortable for a couple of months if you decide to stay. And then we've also looked at, other properties, mixed-use properties that we can get into. And we have a mix of all of these in our pipeline or currently live. And so in terms of the offices, because we don't need those shared spaces and we bring that community to life interactively through our technology and other activities, we can then take parts of the building. So in our case, we're able to, we're an office building that's 5 floors, we're converting 3 of those 5 floors for our purposes. We have the option to go into the rest of the building, minus the first floor, which has a very high yielding supermarket, which is a great rental agreement for the owner to keep. And quite frankly, in our case, we don't need that. So we have that flexibility. And in this case, of course, if you have an office building that lends itself to be converted and it works out in terms of HVAC and water, it really is something that is, if nothing else, a great diversification method, even if the big players don't necessarily feel comfortable with this. And I would argue that there are an increasing amount of big players that do feel comfortable with this. If nothing else, it's a diversification method, is saying, okay, nobody's renting the offices because it's Corona. Question mark is, are they going to return, as Hans pointed out? And what to do with the space today? And clearly the hybrid model, the extended stays, etc., co-living models are doing well. And we have that flexibility because we're not in that rigid hotel format. So there's a massive opportunity. And I think the first more dynamic big players are waking up to that.
Thanks, Niko. Francois, it would strike me that the Joe and Joe brand is, with the range of room types that you offer, it's a good one for conversion. So does your pipeline include a mixture of conversions and new builds?
Yes, you mentioned at the beginning brands such as Generator or Menninger, or we are roughly we are on the same market, and we are just looking for 2 kind of properties. We can build a building, a brand new building, or just give a second life to another one. So so again, here in Paris, we have decided to have a certain range of accommodation coming from dorm with 8 or 10 bunk bed, so means 10 people. But in the same time, we also have room or suite or what we call cabin. And the cabin, it's the perfect image of what we could imagine to transfer a building from a regular building to an hotel. And what we call cabin is like the pod, you know, you have in Amsterdam or you have in Japan, and in the same place. Again, business-wise or investors they're looking for much more turnover in a dedicated areas or in small square meter. And again, that hybrid business means you multiply turnover. Sometimes we all much more invest in common areas because people want to share. They want to know people, the neighbor and or the guest or the tourist. So the bed are as comfortable as possible. The room are maybe the small have weakened because people they don't want to spend time in the room, but we want that they spend time in the common areas, maybe to drink, maybe for lunch. So again, all that hybrid business, and we are eco. We are not in a high or mid scale. We are very economic. So if we compare with brand at Accor, such as maybe Ibis or Telef1, we are in the same business, but in the same time we could add some turnover in the same areas, in the same converter building, but because we have a bar or because you have a restaurant, so the conversion may be very easy because, well, not easy, it depends on the building, but much more easy because again, we want to share people and to have people on common areas. So it should be much more people on the same place.
Thanks, Francois. Paul, Joe and Joe is obviously aimed predominantly at the youth market, but ROVE is more of a mid-scale product. Does that mean you have a broader guest demographic? I mean, who is the typical ROVE guest, and how does it vary in terms of age range and nationality?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When we started the brand, we thought that we were very, very much in this kind of millennial age group, and actually what we refer to now is this kind of young at heart mindset. So, you know, our guests are from 18 to 80, but they generally come with this mindset that, you know, it's, and again, bear in mind that we're in the Middle East, so people are quite used to being pampered and, you know, have a certain level of expectation, and this mindset that, you know, that you're not compromising by staying, you know, in ROVE. It's not about a price point. It's not about a budget hotel as such. It's about people want to spend their money and their time doing other things, whether that's in the public spaces working or whether that's out exploring the city. You know, and again, it's interesting to see our demographic at the moment. We've got 2 Rolls-Royce Phantoms and a Lamborghini in the hotel I'm at, you know, and the current rate is $60. So, you know, so it's quite a wide demographic, and I think yeah, it's quite a wide mindset, and I think the similar thing applies to a lot of the concepts for the speakers on the call. And if I could add to something that I think Hans said, which I thought was really interesting, that, you know, it's important for investors to have diversification, and I think if you have a commoditized hotel, which of course is required, you're only going to follow the market. You know, in general, you know, you're going to follow whatever that hospitality market is. And I think, you know, having a more unique brand, whether it's Joe and Joe, whether it's Zoku, you have the potential to outperform, particularly in situations similar to what we have now.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Okay, we've had quite a few questions coming in, so let's make a start on these. The first one here is from Paul Rands. Hi, Paul. And Paul has asked, will hybrid hospitality lead the way on hybrid leases? Hans, do you want to kick off with that one?
It's definitely an interesting question. I think it's a necessity to go into a more hybrid lease model. I think in the current market, it will not that easy be to, for example, get funding for high fixed leases. And also in this market, you actually see that it's, I think, a better structure also long term to share the upside, but also the downside. So I think that's a far more healthy situation, I think, for the entire market. So I definitely would say, hopefully, hybrid leases will be more common in the new market, where I mean, both parties have a little bit of more entrepreneurial mindset and share the upside, but also the risk.
Yeah. Niko, go ahead.
Yeah, so we've signed multiple leases now in 3 countries, and we've managed to really see that that we've got a couple of partners that first time are doing that hybrid model with the performance elements, and obviously we believe in it. I think that the pandemic and the situation has really opened opened up both sides of the coin, and I agree with that same notion that it's a win-win for both parties. So I would say from the end of being 3 countries, it's definitely happening.
And I guess from your perspective, you haven't come from a typical hotel lease agreement background anyway, and had to evolve. You're coming at it fresh from a slightly different angle from the hotel companies in the first place.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and yet I think the market has to be more open now. But again, even if you're working with trusted partners for ages, everybody's been in the pits one way or another. So it's really opened up to see that, all right, there needs to be a more flexible, resilient way. Yeah.
Just going back to the investment piece quickly, Niko, you mentioned that you'd raised some funds recently. Are your investors are they what you would sort of term hospitality investors, or do they come from a broader background than that?
So our main investors would be international venture capital firms, large private equity real estate companies, and I would say actually nobody technically from the purely operating side of things. They're very much for them, it's been a driver of based on our performance and how we've just managed to outdo the market and really come up with a profitable, healthy business with excellent unit economics, whilst the product market fit has been excellent. So actually in this sort of scaling the short stay rental business, by professionalizing, bringing a brand to it, digitizing it. In this similar space, we've seen on a global scale 3 or 4, 10 million euro plus investments just in the last 2 months, and there should be some excellent news coming from our end very shortly as well, which hopefully we can share with you in your next event. So we actually see that this is the opportunity for hybrid models to really do a breakout when the supply side market is ready for us, demand shows resilience, and the investors are recognizing that and taking their bets to capitalize on it. So this pandemic has really been a blessing in disguise, and I'm not just talking about Bob W. And that's why it's such a relevant subject that you guys invited us on to here today.
Okay, thanks, Niko. Filippo, are you seeing changing attitudes towards leases? Is the hybrid lease becoming more of a talking point in conversations that you're having?
Yeah, from our investors, yes. So they understand the situation we are now. So when they offer you a hotel that they are willing to buy, they are more keen to have they always want a lease. They don't do management contracts anymore, but it's a lease. It's a minimum guarantee plus a percentage on profit. What we're seeing now is that COVID has actually become a small opportunity for us, because unfortunately many hotel operators are going bust. We were lucky because we had no financial debt going into this year of COVID, and Marriott has been contacting us to offering us other hotels that are open and unfortunately went bust with COVID. And these hotels are owned by big investment big investment funds, and now they are very keen on getting an operator, and they are very. We are managing to get really good deals in going to these hotels now. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Filippo. So our next question is from Ivona Meissner, who says, hello from Vienna. Do you see this hybrid model also in European leisure destinations such as the Alps, the lakes, the coast, etc.? If yes, can you share your experiences, please? Francois, I think that's one for you because I believe you have a property in Osegor, am I right?
Yeah. Maybe just a few words about lease. You were talking about lease.
Yeah.
If you, I'm sure you all know that Accor just changed its business model. We are not anymore owner from our properties, but we are with some partner, and we don't take lease. So there is another way. Obviously, lease is maybe the best way for owners to go or to win on some business, but we try to have another way. So maybe it's another subject, but we don't take lease, but pipeline is still there. So there is because maybe we are hybrid as well. We could rethink, as you mentioned with Niko, the way that the lease could be done. So it's another subject. From leisure, again, maybe as far as Joe is much more focusing on capital, like Rome, London, whatever, but it's real that Rio will be like leisure, or Osgore is leisure as well. It's, as we are on the economic business, just adding some properties in some destinations such as Alps or south of France means seasonal periods. It's hard to have a very strong business just with half of the season or half year. Otherwise, if you could just open on a yearly basis. So in Osgore, it's real that we make a tremendous turnover, but only in 5 months. So by chance, the pandemic was low during that summer period. So from us, it was terrific. But again, we could lose a big business if you are just focusing on some seasonal destination. But it's not a question of hybrid. It's just a question of destination. But you're right that today people we have to follow where people want to go. Maybe with this new and after the pandemic, let's be positive on that way. People, they will change their mind, and maybe they will be often maybe 3 days at home and 2 days for work. So means that maybe during the weekend and 3 days after, they will just move. And let's assume that maybe they will just be much more with attractive destinations such as Alps or summertime, just because the connection between two cities will be very easy. But it's not a question of hybrid or not hybrid hotel. It's just a question of mindset. If people, they want to just discover a new way of accommodation. So that's it.
We've got time for one last question. We've got a question here from Brad Hall. He says, has anyone stretched their focus into Africa or have any activity in the African market? Francois, let's stick with you for a minute, because I know Accor has a big presence in Africa and big plans for Africa.
Will
Joe and Joe be heading there?
We have a huge project in South Africa. So it's maybe not Africa as you mentioned, but you're right that Accor has a strong presence in Africa. But as far as we are concerned with Mama Shelter, because Mama Shelter is part of the lifestyle division, or 25 Hours, another brand in the same division as mine. We have some project in Dubai, but it's not Africa. But in Africa, I would say regular or North Africa, we have no yet project on that, but in South Africa, yes.
Paul, what about ROVE? Is there any chance that might head into parts of Africa?
Yes. So our kind of target market is this region, and we include North Africa, particularly in that. And I hope to be able to share some news in the not too distant future. And we're looking forward to 25 Hours joining us in Dubai as well.
Great stuff. The hour has gone really quickly, but we have reached 3 o'clock, so I just need to run through a few slides before thanking our fantastic panel. Giles unfortunately got cut off earlier, but the session's been sponsored by HARMONICS. Their details are on the slide there, and you can find Giles's LinkedIn profile in the chat too. So thank you to them. Giles is also going to be a speaker on the next Urban Living webinar, which is taking place on Wednesday, the 4th of November, that's next week, with a guest host, Anthony Slumbers, and this one is about PropTech. Should be a good one. The link to register for that should be appearing in the chat. Another webinar series you might be interested in joining is the Boutique Hotel Trailblazer series, which my colleague Eloise is hosting, and they are on November the 2nd and November the 16th. Links for those will be coming up in the chat too. And as I mentioned earlier, the Urban Living Light series is happening in November, and these are small face-to-face gatherings with an option to join online. And again, all the details of those in the chat too. So the Urban Living Festival is taking place in London in July next year. We've got a fantastic group of sponsors, exhibitors, and a really strong speaker lineup that we're putting together. And if you are interested in taking part in that, then please contact my colleague Katie, whose details are on the screen there and also in the chat. So next week's webinar is the PropTech one, which Anthony Slumbers is hosting. That should be a great one. Thanks to Giles and to Rez for sponsoring today. And thank you to our great panel. Thanks to Niko, Paul, Francois, Hans and Filippo. Hope you all enjoyed the session. See you on a new one soon. And thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, George. Thank you, everyone.
Soon,
Bye-bye.
stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.